Hello, and a warm welcome to our show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have with us today Mexican journalist Katya Lopez.
Hello, Anna. Hello to everyone in Love Athletics. Thank you very much for having me today here with you.
Thank you, Katya. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very
So
much.
the main focus of today's program will be the NCAA championships, but let's start by getting to know more about our guest. So Katya, I've known you for many years, but I never asked you what motivated you to get involved in athletics and start a career as a sports journalist.
Well, yes, you're right, Anna. We've been met since very long time ago, but indeed, I've never was an athlete. My love for athletics it started when I was a journalist. More than 20 years ago, I started to went to the Sports Center Olympic in Mexico. And there was where I started to watch athletes as Ana Guevara, as Alejandro Cárdenas, as Eder Sanchez. When I saw them training and then watch them competing at TV, I said, wow, this is amazing. I never had the opportunity to train, to see a coach or to go to a track and learn by my own. But once I get there and I get to this Olympic Sports Center in Mexico City, watching athletes and watching coaches teaching me about every single discipline in athletics, I said, this is my favorite in the world.
Brilliant. And what were your three favorite athletics moments in the course of your career?
Wow, it's not easy to choose. I think one of the first that helped me too much as a journalist is a Mexican event called Olimpiada Nacional. But well, the biggest one is the World Championship in Berlin 2009. That was probably the greatest experience of my life. Probably most of them say that this has been the greatest world champ because of course, Usain Bolt breaking three records, especially the one in the 100. Having this amazing atmosphere in a greatest stadium, uh, having medals for Mexico with Eder Sanchez, that by the way won bronze medal but then became silver. Um, Watching a medal for Mexico was very, very enjoyable for me. Watching Yelena Isinbayeva, watching Bekele, uh, and that was a moment when I saw that athletics is a known language. You don't need to speak Chinese or Finnish or French or Spanish to feel the way an athlete feels when they win or they lose. Was a very beautiful atmosphere, Berlin. And the second, probably in the growing up of my career and learning about, it's an event in Mexico that we call it Olimpiada Nacional, uh, in which we had athletes, young, very young athletes, youth or younger. So we can see these athletes growing until they became senior. And there's in 2010, I saw many of these athletes competing in this Olimpiada Nacional and then competing for Mexico in Olympics or World Championships. And it makes me feel very proud, even if I didn't make anything for them. But watch them grow and watch them making their dreams come true has been very, very special for me to follow their careers until the most important experience of their lives. And last one, um, for me, it's the Grand Prix in Mexico City in 2003. Was a beautiful experience because it reminds me in some way how could be the Olympic Games in Mexico in 1968. In this event, in one night, we saw Ana Guevara running against Kathy Freeman in the 300 meters race. That, by the way, Anna won with a world record. But it was full. Was many people watching. This was his last career before the world championship in Paris, where she became world champion in the 400. And the crowd was amazing. My family was there. My family has never known nothing about athletics, so this was very important for me, because even when they never knew athletics, by this event they find out pole vault, steeplechase, long jump, and of course Ana Guevara. And as my family, as my mom and my dad, my sister, many people that probably never knew about, finally came in to athletics by Ana Guevara, but knowing about many other disciplines that are absolutely wonderful. Probably those three are my greatest.
Thank you, Katya. And that 300 meters race in Mexico City was indeed fantastic. As you said, Ana Gabriela Guevara set a then world best of 35.30, but especially was the atmosphere, which was unbelievable, with almost 50,000 people and great enthusiasm for all the athletes, though, of course, the noise level became higher and totally crazy when Guevara was competing.
Yeah, by the way, I remember now that Alison Felix was competing there, and she broke the world junior record in 200. So once we find her competing until last Olympic Games, it's like, wow, I've been meeting her by more than 20 years, following her career. It's like, I can't believe how much athletics has done for me. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's magic.
it's true. Alison Felix did beat that mark, but unfortunately it couldn't be ratified because no doping test had been requested by
Mm.
her management, etc. So unfortunately it didn't count, but you could already see the start of her great career.
Yes, yes, the start of the shining.
Yes. And Guevara is really an athlete for whom I always had a huge respect. And in fact, after she'd had a fantastic 2002, in which she hadn't lost a single race, we started the very first day in the life project with her days after the Grand Prix in Mexico City, bringing a small group of journalists to spend quality time with her after the competition and to watch her train. And we also took her to the National Anthropology Museum.
Oh yes, yes. That was a wonderful program, and this way too became more warm with athletes, to know them better, not just running, not just watching they breaking their own marks, to speak with them, to know about them. Yeah, I do really love the way you help us as a media to get in touch with athletes and to know them better, more than just the machine, the wonderful machine that is running or throwing or jumping. I love the way we connect with them. And this is where she is, where in the National Museum of
Yes.
Anthropology. As I remember, it's a runner, a Raramuri runner from the
Hmm.
north side of Mexico in Chihuahua.
Exactly. Not too far from where Anna was born.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes. The
Uh-uh.
next.
And I always remember she told the journalists there that she'd had many offers to study in the United States, but she also replied that she wanted to stay in Mexico, saying, if I want to be a role model for my people, I must live in my country. So amazing, Ana Gabriela Guevara.
Yeah, she is. She has been, and I do really like the way she thinks, because we are proud to have an athlete as she is, making in made in her own country, made in
Yeah,
Mexico, by the help of Raúl Barreda, a Cuban wonderful coach that helped her a lot and make Mexico feel proud of what we do in our country. Not many
exactly.
opportunities in that way.
It is important.
Yes, for us too much.
So we'll come back to our guest shortly, but let's look now at what's been happening in our sport over the last fortnight, starting with indoor events. where in the last weekend of indoor racing, 3 world under 20 records were set, 1 among the men and 2 among the women. The first world under 20 record came on 10 March from the USA's Kyla Jackson, who ran the 60 meters in 7.07 in the heats of the NCAA Division I Championships in Albuquerque to equal the world under 20 record set by Poland's Ewa Swoboda in 2016. The men's under 20 record came a day later, also in Albuquerque, from Jamaica's triple jumper Jaden Hibbert, who soared to 17.54 when winning the NCAA title on 11 March to become the 3rd best performer of the season, behind the great Pedro Pichardo and emerging talent Jordan Diaz Fortuna. Hibbert's mark is also better than the outdoor world under 20 record of 17.50 set by the DDR's Volker May back in 1985. The Jamaican had impressed last year, winning the World Under 20 Championships, aged only 17, after taking silver in the previous edition in 2021, aged 16, and he was among the 5 athletes nominated for the 2022 Rising Star Award, dominating his event with the 6 best under 20 marks. And finally, at the New Balance Indoors in Boston for high school students on 11 March, Adea Hodge of the British Virgin Islands first set a world under 18 best of 22.77 over 200 meters. Then on 12 March, one day before her 17th birthday, she smashed that mark to win in 22.33, which is not only, of course, the under 18 best, but also the world under 20 record at the distance. Hodge had taken double crowns at the Carifta Games last year over both 100 and 200 meters in the under 17 category, so she's definitely one to watch in the coming years. So Katya, impressive young talents, aren't they?
All of them. I love to follow them since now. And especially I like the way it's making their job. This wonderful Jadon Hibbert, who I saw him winning the gold medal in Cali 22. This is amazing guy. An amazing guy. Always in his first attempt, he does something amazing that you just say like, what else can they all guys do? Other guys are just jumping because he's winning since the first one. So Jadon Hibbert is probably one of my favorites for this new generation.
Thank you. So more great performances were registered at the NCAA Championships in Albuquerque, closing off the season in style with great marks, including 4 area indoor records, assisted, of course, by the rarefied air, as Albuquerque is at an altitude of over 1,600 meters. The first area record came from Nigeria's Favor Ofili, the reigning 200 meters Commonwealth Games silver medalist, who in the 200-meter heats clocked 22.11 for another African record. In the final, Ofili was defeated by LCAA's Julien Alfred, who with 22.01 climbed to number 2 in the all-time lists behind the great Merlin Otte's 21.87 from 1993. Alfred, the reigning 100-meter Commonwealth Games silver medalist, had a fabulous weekend, as the day before she had also set an area record over 60 meters, equaling the NACAC record set by the USA's Aliyah Hobbs in February with 6.94. Both are now joint number 2 in the all-time list, behind the multi-talented Irina Privalova's 6.92 from 1993. Over the 400 meters, the USA's Britton Wilson was even more impressive, charging through the 2 laps in 49.48, a mark which propels her to number 2 in the all-time list behind Femke Bol, who had smashed the world record on 19 February. And Wilson, who like Ball is mainly a hurdler, set the NACAC record, which is also better than the previous world record, Jarmila Kratochvilova's 49.59, which had been set back in 1982 and lasted over 40 years. And in the 4x400 meter relay, Britton Wilson anchored the Arkansas team to victory in 3:21.75, a mark that is faster than the world indoor record of 3:23.37 set by the Russia in 2006, but cannot be ratified as a world record as the Arkansas runners are from different nationalities. Wilson is a world champion with the USA's mile relay in Oregon last summer, and her split in Albuquerque was timed in 49.20. And the final area indoor record from the NCAAs was set in the triple jump by the USA's Jasmine Moore, who soared to 15.12 to become the fifth best performer of all time and only the ninth woman to ever break the 15-meter barrier indoors. Having already won the long jump in a world-leading 7 meters 03 the day before, Moore took double NCAA crowns, as she had done both indoors and outdoors last year. And there were more excellent results among the men. In the 200-meter heats, first Uganda's Tarsis Gracious Orogot and then Nigeria's Udodion Wuzurike clocked 20.17. But in the final, it was the USA's Matthew Bowling who raced to a world-leading 20.12 to climb to number 6 in the all-time list. Bowling, who had won 4 sprint titles, including the 2 relays at the 2019 Pan Am Under-20 Championships, has PBs of 9.98 and 19.92, and is also an 8-meter jumper. In the pole vault, Norway's Sondre Guttormsen, fresh from taking the European indoor crown just 5 days earlier, added the NCAA title, successfully clearing 6 meters, only the second man to achieve this in 2023. And another spectacular performance came from multi-eventer Kylie Garland, who totaled 6,639 points in the heptathlon, just 9 points shy of Ashton Eaton's 2012 world record. Garland, whose best marks came in the 60 meters hurdles with 7.74 and the long jump with 7.96 meters, beat Aiden Owens-Delerme, who moved into number 3 in the all-time list. The Puerto Rican had defeated Garland at the NCAA Outdoor Championships last summer before finishing 4th at the World Championships in Eugene, where Garland was 11th. Katya, did you have time to follow the NCAA Championships? What
Yes,
events impressed you most?
In fact, the combined events, but the most that I like is first that it's like if you see World University Games just for track and field with the greatest athletes of the United States that probably are, I mean, in the universities, but there are many from other parts of the world. So you see a level that it's amazing. And probably athletes from the Caribbean, for example, doesn't have the opportunity to compete in indoor events at their countries or Africa, for example. So you had the opportunity to see your level in the indoor and prepare for the outdoor season. And as you've been saying, the combined events are the ones that I like the most because you can see the athletes more than just once. You can see them 7 or 10 times per competition. And I do really like the way Aiden Olsen competed at this NCAA championships. But and as I told you, Jaden, but I like the way the Latin American athletes are growing in the indoor competitions because it's not a tradition for Latin American athletes to be part of this.
Of course. Uh, uh, are there many Latin American students competing at the NCAAs? Do you know?
Not so much, and most of them are turning to as a US athletes. For example, did Leonel Manzano. In a few moments, Laura Galvan as a runner. She was part of a Kentucky university, but there are a few athletes that make the team. Now there's Paola Bueno, a thrower, a hammer thrower from Mexico. It's part of the team in the Louisiana University, I think. But they are like taking their first steps in the NCAA. As we know, it's from a different levels. So you have to compete in the fourth, three, second, and first one. So they are growing on this, but I like that they are starting because in Mexico we don't even have a track for indoor events. So this is a very new situation for Latin American athletes, and I like they are doing this because the winter, autumn and winter, it's time that we lost for athletes because they don't have an opportunity to grow in this type of competition, which is very different than the outdoor.
Thank you. And so we'll be looking forward to the outdoor then, to Paula and to Chile's Claudio Romero, who also studies in the US and who had great results last
Yes,
year.
yes, exactly. Both.
So let's review now the best indoor results of the past fortnight, which of course all came in the NCAAs. So we saw Matthew Bowling now tops the 200-meter list. Behind him with 20.13 is Courtney Lindsay. Then Tarsis and Udodi with their 27.17. And in the final, Tarsis ran 20.20. Over 400 meters, Elijah Goodwin equaled the 44.75 that he had set on 25 February in Fayetteville. No other changes, and Ryan Willey was second in the final with 44.93. No changes, understandably, in the middle and longer distances. Over the pole vault, we saw 6 meters for Sondre Guttormsen, and the heptathlon with Kylie Garland and Aiden Owens. Among the women, the most interesting marks also came mainly in the sprints. Julianne Alfred has 9.94 from the final, but she had already run 6.96 in the heats. So she now has a total of 3 marks under 7 seconds flat, as she had clocked 6.97 in late February. And over 200, Julianne Alfred favor O'Feely. O'Feely also had 20.20 in the final after her 22.11 in the heats. And as we saw in the high school meet, Adea Hodge, 22.33. Over 400 meters, we spoke about Britton Wilson. And in the triple jump, Jasmine Moore. And the 4x4 relay by Arkansas, which unfortunately cannot be recognized as a world record. So, Katya, overall, throughout the indoor season, what impressed you the most this year?
I think as we all in the Olympic world are very like amazed about Mondo Duplantis with his 6:22. That was an amazing record. I don't know how far can he goes. He's I love pole vaulting because it's a field event. It's a very complete discipline. But the most that I like from Mondo is how he take his the risk of mentally break a new height, and the way he is so secure to go for another one. This was made in France, by the way, helped in some way, like in a moral way, by Renaud Lavillenier, who was part of the organizing committee, and I think it was a very warm atmosphere to see Mondo in the best situation to break another record. But now that the question for me is, what's next? He has the gold in World Championships, in Olympics, both records in indoor and outdoor. What else do he needs? He's an amazing athlete with a great coach and a great
Yeah.
team as a family.
Thank you, Kathy. It will definitely be interesting to continue following Mondo, who is so young, and see how far he can go.
Yes,
So
will.
let's move now to outdoor events and look at the best outdoor marks of the fortnight, starting with the men's events, where best new marks came in the throws and road events. In the shot put, Jacko Gill passed 22 meters for the first time with 22:12, and now has also again beat Tom Walsh. Both of them had 21 meters 80, and in the same competition where Jacko threw over 22 meters, Tom Walsh was measured in 21.79. And results not as good, but it's only the start of the season in Europe, in the European Throwing Cup. Ukraine's Roman Kokoshko with 21 meters 0.52. Christian Se in the discus, also in Leira at the European Throwing Cup, threw a good 68 meters 30. The other marks were all over road events, over 5K. Yomif Kejelcha became the number 2 of all time, missing the world record set by Berihu Aregawi by just 1 second. And Berihu Aregawi over the double distance, over the 10 kilometers in Laredo on 11 March, he also moved up to number 2 of all time, behind Ronex Kipruto's world record. In the marathon, the best mark remains that of Gadisa Shumye in Sevilla, but Marius Kimutai and Othman Al-Gumri clocked very good performances in Barcelona. Over the 20 kilometers race walk, Koki Ikeda still is the world leader with 1:18:36 from 19 February, but Australia's Declan Tingay, competing as a guest at the Asian Championships, clocked 1:18:46. Among the women, 2 Oceania records were set in the past fortnight, both in women's events, both on 11 March at the Sydney Track Classic. In the 100 meters, New Zealand's Zoe Hobbs continues to improve her times, shaving another 1/10 of a second off her recent PB, breaking the 11-second barrier with 10.97. The Commonwealth Games finalist had run a heavily wind-assisted 10.89 in the previous week with a 3.4 tailwind. Over 3,000 meters, Australia's Jessica Hull slashed her PB by over 9 seconds to close in 8:31.81 and set her second Oceania record after that over 1,500 meters at the Tokyo Olympics. The world indoor and outdoor finalist continues to impress after running a decisive leg in Australia's bronze-winning mixed relay at the World Cross on home soil last month. But the best outdoor performance of the fortnight came on the roads on 12 March from Kenya's Ruth Chepngetich, who defended her title to win the Nagoya Women's Marathon in a fast 2 hours 18:08. The 2019 marathon world champion closed her race more than 3 minutes ahead of her competitors. So the other notable performance of the fortnight came from Dominican Republic's Marilady Paulino, a silver medalist at 400 in both the Olympic Games and World Championships, who on 17 March clocked 35.16 over 300 meters to set the number 3 mark of all time, behind Shawnee Miller-Weibo and Beatrice Mazilingi's recent 34.60. So Katya, we're already reaching the end of March. Tell us, what were your favorite athletics moments so far this year?
Well, and as you said, Marilady Paulino, I think that this year the 400 will be again for Central American with these great athletes we have in the female 400. But I have to feel very proud about the Mexican women in athletics. One of them is Laura Galvan. She just a few weeks ago she broke the national record in the 10,000. She made 31:04:41 in California. This record was like 20 years old, and this is her 12 national record that she has break since the 1500, 5,000, and the 10,000 in the outdoor. She had records in the indoor too, in the indoor events. Laura surely will be in the Olympics and breaking records. I think she's improving a lot. She did this in this month, in March. But I feel very happy too because of another Mexican woman, Citlali Moscote. She's the first person in Mexico in every single sport with the qualification for the Olympics. She ran the marathon in Sevilla. She finished fourth. She made 2 hours 24:53 and made the qualification time. So both for me are one of the greatest news until March, and this 2022 year that will be very, very heavy because we have a lot of events for Latin Americans. We have Central American and Caribbean Games, the World Championship, Pan American Games, and looking to make the team for the Olympics. So watching this will be a very, very heavy year. These two girls are having me very, very happy.
Thank you, Katya. And who do you think are Latin American athletes we should look out for this summer?
I think both of her. I think that Tonatiuh Lopez can be another one. Of course, Marilady Paulino is one of the importance that we have to be following it. As we were speaking about Aiden Owen de Lemer, I mean, this guy was fourth in Oregon and then a proud Puerto Rican. So for me, this will be a very important year for them. Of course, Yulimar Rojas, she's just probably a tradition now. But I think there will be part of the athletes that I would like to follow closely.
Thank you, Katya. That's interesting. Now, let's come back briefly to Ana Guevara. After her sports career, Guevara was a senator from 2012 to 2018, and in recent years became director of the Comisión Nacional del Deporte, the governing body for sport in Mexico. And here we see Katya interviewing Ana Guevara in that role. Now,
Yes.
Katya, you said earlier that you had not been an athlete, but we have evidence that you did compete.
Oh yes,
in the
I
media
did.
race at the 2011 World Championships in Daegu.
That was so
When-
funny. I love that race. It's I think it's a tradition in the World Championships now. I know so many partners, so many journalists that every 2 years they prepare themselves to compete at this 800. Of course, it was not my case, but I did my best. And I remember a friend, dear friend Montesinos, told me you had break the Mexican record at this stadium in the 800 for women, and I said, okay, I'm good with that. Was a very, very, very funny day, and another way to understand athletics by your own participation.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-mm. Now, you also took part in the torch relay at the Central American and Caribbean Games in 2014.
Yeah, that was very funny too, and a nice moment. And when we meet in one of many parts of the world that we've been in touch, but you went to Veracruz to have a media development project with Mexican journalists and from the region of Central American and Caribbean. And yes, this was part of this magical moments that has given me to carry with the torch of these Central American games.
Now, as well as being a journalist, you sometimes work as a stadium announcer, as was the case in the 2015 Pan American Games in Monterrey.
Yes, and indeed, last year I made it. This was in the Pan American Games in Toronto 2015. I made it
Toronto,
in,
sorry.
yes, in Guadalajara 2011. And I had the greatest honor to be the first woman from Latin America to make this job for the World Championship in Cali 22. Was wonderful for me, and was very nice to hear athletes to say, hey, I can hear my name in the Latin American pronunciation. If you say Perez, no, or you say Carrillo, or names that probably are different in a different pronunciation in English, and being in a Latin American country in Colombia uh, was a very beautiful experience. But I think I have to say thank to many people that have helped me to improve myself. Coaches as Raúl Barreda, as Andres Piotrowski, and you, that you helped me a lot since my starting. You've been really the greatest teacher for me in the media development projects that I took part. But in every day in the competitions, or even if there was no competition or events, you helped me a lot to understand, to feel more curiosity, to know how to express to the people how important it was, the event for the athletes. So I feel very, very grateful because every single little step that I've been growing, it's thanks to the great angels around the track and field as you and many friends that are helping me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Katya.
To you, to
Now,
you.
which part of the job did you enjoy the most?
I think I love to hear the athletes. I like they share us their stories because many people think, oh, they won, it's great. He lose is the worst. But when you know their stories, their situations, the way they can teach you something by athletics, something that they make a dream come true by track and field, but in the way to become what they are looking for, they transit with a very long or heavy or difficult situations that you never know. And to hear them talking, to hear the way they think, to admire them, and to know who they admire, which books they like to read, what are they wearing on their pocket, what music they like to hear, and in some way, how can you become a little more like them, like these people that these athletes that you admire, by the way they read or they hear some music, or in some way to get closer to them and to feel a little champion as they are, and to feel you are part of this story by watching them, by testifying the injuries, the effort, the training, the good, the bad. um, it fills my heart to know how can they go so far even when they started with nothing.
Yeah.
Hear them is the greatest. And if I wasn't a journalist, I had the opportunity to ask them and to hear and to share with the people what I ask. When I started in athletics, I used to write as, oh, this Eder Sanchez won the silver medalist with this time. And then I came to my house and speak to my grandma. Oh, you cannot even imagine how amazing it was to see. And I say, this is the way I want to tell the stories. I want to speak to someone that doesn't know athletics, but that can feel the passion that I found by the competitions. So I started to change the way I write my stories, and started to speak like if I was to my grandma. And I say, if she that doesn't know about athletics feel the way I feel, then I won a medal, because I won
Ah,
another fan for athletics. And it has worked. The formula has working. It's working. So it doesn't matter if they love or they don't know about athletics. If you can make them feel the love you found in an effort, in a medal, in a lose, in a crying, in a victory, I think your job is done.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd now like to highlight some cool athletics news. So, congratulations to McKenna Myler, who ran a mile race in 5 minutes 17 in her 9th month of pregnancy, and posted the video on her Instagram account on 21 February, concluding the post with, "Don't be afraid to challenge reality." 5:17 was better than her previous late pregnancy PB, which was set just 1 week before the birth of her first child in autumn 2020. Myler had then told her husband she believed she could run a mile in 7 minutes, and had completed her challenge with the blessing of her doctors in a solo time trial of 5 minutes 25. The athlete, who has been coached for the past 9 months by Ryan Hall, who still holds the US and NACAC half marathon record, is not new to funky mile performances. She explained in an interview with NPR that she had run a mile on the morning of her wedding, realizing that her name would change to Myler. And she has also taken part in Blue Jean Mile, a fundraising event for mental health charities, where, according to Canadian Running Magazine, she clocked an unofficial PB of 4 minutes 37. Now, Myler's standard track PB in the World Athletics database is 4:42:40. Congratulations also to Ermias Ayele, former director of the Great Ethiopian Run, who ran barefoot in the Rome Marathon on 19 March to honor the legendary Abebe Bikila, the first Black African to win an Olympic medal, who had triumphed in the 1960 marathon, setting a world record while running barefoot on the paved streets of the Italian capital. Our friend and colleague Haile Xavier Adhanom had informed of Ermias's challenge in an article for the AIPS website, and shared this photo of Ermias training for his debut at the distance. Now, Ermias did not unfortunately fulfill his goal of running under 4 hours, but has other marathons lined up, all linked to Abebe Bikila, to achieve this. More sad news, unfortunately. as several protagonists of the world of athletics have left us. Austrian 400-meter runner Caroline Käfer passed away on 11 March, aged 68. Käfer earned 3 medals at the European Indoor Championships. She was the best Austrian athlete of her generation, winning 49 individual national titles, and still holds the outdoor national record at 400 meters with 50.62, set in 1977, the oldest Austrian track record. And her indoor 400-meter mark was only broken at the start of this month at the Euro Indoors. Käfer moved to longer distances in the mid-80s and later took up mountain running, taking part in 5 European championships in the late 90s and early 2000s. Rest in peace, Caroline. Mexican sports official Cesar Moreno Bravo passed away in the evening of Sunday, 12 May, aged 88. A 400-meter runner and then coach from 1959 and physical education professor, Moreno went on to become a highly respected official in the sport he deeply loved, nationally and internationally. Among his many posts, he was vice president of the Mexican Athletic Federation in 2 spells for a total of 11 years. He was technical director for athletics at the Mexico City Olympic Games in 1968. He was an IAAF technical committee member, again in 2 spells, for a total of 18 years. From 1993 to 2011, he was an IAAF technical delegate at 6 World Championships and 2 Olympic Games. And from 1991 to 2011, he was an IAAF council member. I worked with Cesar over many years in his role as IAAF technical delegate and always appreciated his dedication to the sport and his desire to find solutions agreeable to all parties. Cesar remained a friend after we both were no longer involved with World Athletics, and he contributed valuable insight to several of our Love Athletics programs. It was always a pleasure to hear him speak about a sport which was his lifelong passion, as you would always learn something, and yet he was incredibly modest despite his achievements. On his Twitter account, Cesar Moreno described himself as viejo profesor que se siente orgulloso de sus alumnos, an old professor who is proud of his students. Amazing Cesar Moreno. I will miss you, dear friend, but know you will be happy to be reunited with your beloved wife, Vero. Descansa en paz, estimado Cesar. Katya, you knew Professor Cesar Moreno well. Is there any anecdote you would like to share with us?
Well, he was one of the first persons that believed in my career as a journalist. For him, I started to went to the World Championships. He invited me. He was very. I feel like he was some kind of coach for me, but as a journalist, not as an athlete. Trusting in me, helping me. Even if I have doubts about myself, he was always like, "You can do it. You will make it. I know you will. You will make us feel proud of your work." The first time that I made a technical voice was at the World Cup in race walking in Chihuahua in 2010. And I was like, "Professor, I think I cannot do this. I'm very afraid. I don't know if I'm going to do it wrong." And he said, "Why do you think I suggest you? If I believe in you, you should believe in yourself." And I was like very, very nervous, but he gave me a lot of confidence. And since then, I started in a new way in the technical voice, but then he helped me to find the humanity in athletes, and to be more careful to watch more with more closer to the athletes, to see more human, to feel the humanity on them. So because that was the way he was. He was a very warm person, a very warm friend, and as you said, he was a very uh, like he was. He didn't like to feel like he was a very amazing, but he was amazing in the way he made athletics for Mexico and the region and athletes, coaches, judges, and journalism. He made a lot for athletics, not just for Mexico, but for me especially. I feel very, very grateful with him and with his life on athletics.
Thank you, Katya. Now, I saw that on 7 to 9 April, the Mexican Federation will be holding a meeting in his name in Mexico City. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, I think they should have this event before, but will be a meeting for different levels, not just the senior. Will be for young guys, new athletes, teenagers. And what they want is that will be annual, to preserve the name of Professor Cesar Moreno. But I think that it will be very important to spread the way he was so passionate about athletics, not just with a meeting that will be very, very nice, but too about the way he make us feel in love with athletics, and all their students, we as students of Cesar Moreno, friends, should be uh, sharing the love for athletics as he did for us, because he sorry, he gave us a legacy, and I feel very happy, and it's an honor for me to find athletics by the way he helped me. So now I think it's my responsibility to share the same way he did for me with new generations of journalism, coaches, athletes, fathers for father families from the athletes around, friends, and I think now our job, besides this wonderful meeting, is to spread the love of athletics as Cesar Moreno did all his life.
Very true. Thank you. So, as we saw, Cesar Moreno was the technical director for athletics at the Olympic Games in 1968, and coincidentally, one of the heroes of those games, US high jumper Dick Fosbury, also passed away on 12 March, aged 76. Fosbury revolutionized the high jump with his innovative technique, which he had developed as a teenager in high school from 1964. He improved it over the following years, and with the results came his first cover of Track and Field News in February 1968. But it was at the Olympic Games in Mexico that the world discovered the technique. And Fosbury said in an interview with Spikes magazine in 2014 that the spectators were so astonished they stopped cheering and just looked on in silence. He also said his initial name for the technique, using, as he described it, his engineering analytical side, was a back layout. That name, however, was not very catchy, so the next time he was interviewed, he changed it to the Fosbury flop, and that stuck. In 1968, high jumpers mostly used the straddle technique and some the scissors, but 4 years later, 28 out of 40 contestants at the Munich Olympics were already using his technique, which is almost universally utilized now. Fosbury's career, however, was quite short, as he decided to focus on his civil engineering studies at Oregon State University. He went on to be a successful engineer, but in 1988 competed at the Nike Masters World Games and taught at the high jump clinic. Fosbury had been diagnosed with stage 1 lymphoma in 2008, and after years of treatment, appeared to be clear of the cancer. The lymphoma, however, recently returned, and Fosbury passed away after a short bout with the illness. Now, my favorite memory of Dick Fosbury, however, is not from a competition, but from the IAAF Centenary Gala in Barcelona 2012. Russian high jumper Anna Chicharova had seen that Fosbury was on the list of athletes to be interviewed for the day's press points and came to ask if she could attend his press conference. And at the evening's gala, Fosbury asked me to help him find Romanian high jump icon Yolanda Balas, as he was keen to meet the lady who had improved the world record 14 times, bringing it from 175 to 191. That genuine admiration across generations and continents is one of the reasons I love this sport. Rest in peace, Dick. Let's now look at upcoming events as we reach the end of our show. On 24 and 25 March in Nairobi, the Kenyan trials for the African under 18 and under 20 championships will be held. On 25 March, Dudinska 50 race walk event, the first race walking tour gold event. On the same day, Brisbane Classic on track. 25 March to 1st April, the amazing boys and girls championships in Kingston, Jamaica. On 2 April, there is a series of international marathons, including Xiamen in China, Daegu, North Korea, and Paris, before the big ones later in April, with Rotterdam on the 16th, Boston on the 17th, and London on the 23rd. And on 8 and 9 April, another race walking tour gold event in Taicang, China, the Chinese National Walking Grand Prix. So we're now at the end of our program. It was great having Katya with us on the show.
No, it was an honor for me, and thank you very much. I feel very happy that technology is helping us to find each other, to see you again. I miss you so. I miss every single event where we were in touch, but it's nice to be in contact again, even in the other side of the world, and to see how athletics still being part of our lives and connecting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katya. It was great to catch up with you, and hope to do this in real life soon around an athletics event.
Hopefully, I hope, really. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And thank you all for watching, and see you in 2 weeks on Love Athletics to look together at the highlights, comments, and analysis of what's been happening in our sport over the last 2 weeks. Thank you, Katya. Thank you, everyone. Ciao.
Thank you.